Hello, everyone. It's 2 p.m. on a Wednesday afternoon, which means you're tuning in to Cannabis Legalization News. I'm producer Lauren, and today we're going to be speaking with Jay Czarkowski, founding partner at Canna Advisors. But first, we're going to get into a little bit of cannabis legalization news. So what's going on in the news this week, Miggy and Tom?
Hey. Oh, shit, we can't hear Tom. Tom, you are silent. You were doing this, and nothing's coming out. It worked so well earlier. What happened? I don't hear you, bro. Yeah, you. Or is it me? Uh-oh. Wait. Is he on mute now? Am I on mute?
Am I on mute? Like Tom's on mute.
Okay. Woo!
No. Good. Yeah, we can hear you.
All right. Well, we got our weekly glitch. That's what we call this one. Fuck yeah. And it worked like 10 minutes ago. I fucking hate tech, and I work in tech. This is the problem with tech. And guarantee you the guy who did this shit is sober. The guy who created this shit and fucking probably some conservative freaking dude who only knows one how fucking thing. And this is where you fucks up the code for this shit. It worked 10 minutes ago.
I know. We were just talking.
Wait.
No.
No! Oh man. Can you hear me, Tom? Tap once for yes and two for no. Of course, if he didn't hear me, he wouldn't be able to do that.
Oh, he can hear us.
Can we chat with him? Let's see here. Hey, can you see this? Hey. We can't hear you. Oh boy. Hey, so in the weekly news, we have in the USA Today talking about how the nation's weed war has turned many into prisoners and others into moguls. Let me give you that right there. It's kind of what we do. It's why Tom and I have been doing this for years. It feels like we're like the Paul Revere's of fucking weed, where you're just like, hey, everybody's going to jail, and this thing doesn't kill anybody. That's where we're at. Like now they're catching up to us after we've been doing this for 10 years. And, it's unfortunate that there are the prisoners and the failure, especially in our minority communities. A lot of this has been engaged towards us. But, along that lines, you guys in Illinois are doing some pretty awesome shit with your equity program. And then we got the Canna Advisors who are coming on today, right? Was it Jay Czarkowski? Yeah, so that's gonna be dope. Oh wait, we got audio.
Oh, now.
Oh shit! Can you guys hear me? Now can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah. Can you hear us?
Okay, I can hear you now too. Hey, that was a wonderful example of something that worked in the green room, and then when we went live, it did nothing.
That was wild, dude.
That was wild. I'm not the biggest fan of it, but we kind of got past it. I'm not sure how that's going to work for next week when I'm supposed to be at the Illinois Summit. If I just suddenly go down like that, because that's just my iPhone rig. Like I don't even need these anymore. I don't think, because I'm just talking to you through my speaker here, right?
Oh, what do you need? Updates maybe or something? I don't know.
No, it was all updated. It's just that when you're doing the phone, it says that it's in beta as you go into it.
Oh.
And then of course I immediately got a phone call from a client that we don't need to discuss anymore. But that is one of the reasons why I tell my clients, hey, if it's 2 o'clock on a Wednesday, don't call, but they do. And that's just how it is. It's the me culture. But let's go to the news. And I do apologize for the 4 minutes of technical difficulties, which we will be cutting out of things. Miggy is tasting the news. And I'm going to just put that one in there. So October might see a third country legalize marijuana. Did you hear about Mexico maybe legalizing marijuana, Miggy?
Yeah, that's been in the process for a while. This is not no overnight shit. I even wrote a statement. Amy Case Keene, who's a very large activist in the national sense, she worked with WHO. She's worked with there's this group called FAAT. I don't know what it stands for. Yes, FAT. You look them up, but they're all proactive in the United Nations type shit. And it was kind of sad with the UN when that thing when they didn't come up with their it should be legalized shit. All they said was we think it's less dangerous. But yeah, the Mexico thing's been and with Mexico it's not just cannabis. There's all kinds of small amount possession shit they're passing. Uh-oh, somebody's bandwidth's lagging. Is that you or me? Uh-oh. Lord, help.
Oh, Tom, you're still having issues.
He needs to stay off those websites. So hey, let's let's see if we can get Tom shut down, come back on one more time. Let's do this one more time. We can do it. All right. So what else we got? Oklahoma. Oklahoma is actually going to be letting out inmates for early release for drug crimes, which I think is pretty awesome.
Nice.
Here, let me so you can share the link in the YouTubes or wherever else that producer Laura has access to. And so what else is going on in the news? Lauren, do you have anything that you think is topical or pressing in the world of legalization?
I do want to get in the applications, but I do want to have Tom on for that.
Yeah, plus
really exciting time for Illinois right now.
Are you going to apply? Are you going to be getting involved?
No, not yet. I'm going to see how this goes first.
Well, I mean, you're on the forefront, man. Just put yourself in debt for like $500,000. Can't be that hard.
You come over to Illinois and try something.
You need residency. How long's the residency? It's like 3 months or some shit.
Mm.
But yeah, no, I mean, I would. But even in Washington, this whole legalization shit set up for people with money. You know, it's in the early days of Washington's legalization with the medical, anybody had a chance. You know, so as you can see, I have my little small babies here.
Looking good.
Yeah, well, that's actually not so good. Last year, the other ones that I had were like 7 feet tall, 6 feet tall. These are not going to be great, but I'll be lucky if I get a bud, pretty much. But what's the whole point being is in the early days of Washington state legalization, you know, that I can turn over for a profit at a store, at a rec center, and fucking have a chance. I would be in the chance to be in this, and that's who a lot of these recreational people are people who saved money, who are wise and doing all the right shit. You know, that's who's involved right now. Of course, then you got the huge investors, which you know, our guest, he's part of one of the bigger groups, ArcView. So you know, there's a lot of big hands out there being played, but unfortunately, you need a big hand to play in this recreational game. The medical game, Oklahoma is still game. Like if you're an Oklahoma citizen, there's still a chance for you to be a millionaire without the government knowing. And really, that's what it comes down to, right? Taxes and all the shit that we fucking as grown-ups got to abide by. You know, payroll, different things.
Guys,
hey,
can you hear me?
Yay!
Can you hear me?
We
can
can
hear
hear
me?
Shake once for yes and twice for no.
Oh man, this is the Chicago internet that I pay $60 a month for. Really kind of sucks. I'm not gonna lie about that.
Is it Comcast? You don't have to lie. It's Comcast.
Of course, it's Comcast.
I figured.
Yeah.
You guys stick with the city, my friend.
But so how's it going? I'm okay though.
Good. Do you have your earbuds or your air if you're using a phone?
No,
Oh.
I don't have earbuds in my ear. I can put
Or
them
like-
in.
So we can hear you. Yeah. A little clearer.
I can hear him
Can you
fine.
me now if I shout
Oh.
at it?
No, I can hear you fine.
All right.
I just think this is that. Oh no.
Oh no, that doesn't help. I guess that's the issue.
Yeah, the earbuds. Earbuds are bad. All right, Apple, get on this shit. Our 10 subscribers are getting pissed off right now. Our 6 viewers. What we got going on? Did we lose a person yet? Oh, Tom's on mute. Literally, he's on mute. Unmute your shit.
Those, what are they called? The earbuds or whatever? Earbuds.
Yeah.
Earbud, or that's the
Unmute your shit. I'm texting him right now.
AirPods. They keep muting you, man.
Oh, never mind. He's gonna try to go reboot. Hey, this is what I do all fucking day. This is why tech sucks. Like, so honestly, like, so today, a special day where I'm at home because I gotta fix a dryer. Good times. But this is my only thing that I do now because my website had to go away. And then we really can't talk about why, because the reason why it was shut down is because we all don't really use our real names in cannabis. This whole conversation, you know, we're still like ghosts. So you still have a chance to like disappear if you're like not feeling good about things. And honestly, in this activism side, you'll see a lot. You'll meet a lot of weird people. It's just straight up like you don't want to have come to your barbecue. You're like this motherfucker, you know. But they are an American. They do have a voice and they do vote. So you gotta just be like, all right, you know, we're on the same team. Ish, but so what else is going on here? Oh yeah, so hemp's always in the news, but you know, the news is Tom. really, he's so funny because I think his perspective on the news issue is because he's on the business side of things. He looks at the like relevant shit. I just look like who's getting fucked with, and we got people sitting in jail for 26, 20 years. I got letters from prison sometimes. There's a gentleman, Andy Cox. He's reached out to me several times. It's very depressing. I was like, yeah, I could talk about this shit all fucking day, but you're gonna want to like slit your wrist and fuck America after you're done because this is not happy shit. But at the same time, you got people on jet skis and trips to Hawaii, and it's a plant. It's a good thing. It's a natural, loving thing that we should not be ashamed of as people involved with it. But yet we still have the stigmas. Oh, here we go.
Oh crap! Am I finally back?
I think so. We're good.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
All right.
Can you hear me?
We've all learned one thing: never try something new. Ever.
I think Apple needs to get on it.
But you guys can hear me though. We can actually have a show now.
I think we're good to go.
All right. Well, how are we going to salvage this dumpster fire? Well, I'm sure like the content was fantastic. What happened,
good,
guys?
We're good.
Yeah.
I rambled.
Right.
I was talking about my perspective about how, like, I'm on the prison side of things. All the sad, depressing, not.
Oh yes. Everything that's going wrong with it.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
And it doesn't pay bills. It's just an advocacy thing, right? But yeah, I got a name. And then you on the business side, because as you said, you want to do the show about news and shit, but you're always on the legal stuff, which I always find in myself too now to be awareness. Like being an adult, where you're like, oh, I really got to pay attention to shit.
Right. Well, it's all very important. And then the thing is, when you have an illegal demographic, it's really easy to keep them oppressed. So as it becomes a business and money gets into it, and that becomes influence, and then you can buy lobbyists, and then you can actually start changing the laws to get them prisoners out of jail. But yeah, that's how we first met, man, back in doing it because it's the right thing. And that's just really what we've continued to do. And it's still the right thing now. And I think with Illinois and how they're doing it and trying to approach social equity, it's going to create a lot of new companies. And our guest is going to absolutely be talking about that here pretty soon with us. So,
I think it's pretty awesome. I mean, you guys are doing it right. Lauren, that's part of the thing we're talking about. Lauren was saying she's excited about that conversation too. So yeah. So what else you got going on? We were you're talking about before you cut out.
Well, there was a couple of stories that I wanted to get, but like I totally had some technical difficulties, and it really had to do with the number of banks. They're released at the end of every quarter. So September 30th quarter ended, and then June 30th, what numbers were reported. So the number of banks that are banking cannabis has continued to increase, and the number of credit unions that are banking cannabis has continued to increase. So that's good, and hopefully as the Safe Banking Act continues and goes through to the Senate, we'll have even more news to report on that. But other than that, that was really the only few stories that we saw. I mean, most people aren't at Congress. I think Congress is at recess. A lot of people are at recess, provided that they're making laws. And then we were going to talk about what's going on in Illinois, and it's application season for dispensaries. And that's why we were going to have Jay on the show from Canna Advisors to talk all about how to win an application.
Yeah, no, I think it's just all exciting.
Yeah, should we bring him on?
Right.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Yeah.
All right, Jay, can you tell us about Canna Advisors?
Sure, I'll tell you the who, what, when, and where. How about that?
Please do.
So, like I said, the Canna Advisors started quite by accident in 2012. We were early operators in Colorado since 2009. In fact, the 10-year anniversary of us opening our first dispensary is coming up in a couple of weeks. Well, in 2012, Connecticut had just passed a medical bill legislatively, and Massachusetts also passed a medical bill by ballot initiative. We had no intention of starting a consulting company, but a group of folks from Connecticut reached out, asked us if we could help them win one of only 4 licenses the state was going to issue. We said, sure. Had no idea, how that's accomplished, because Connecticut was the first competitive state with limited licenses. Went to work with these guys for a year, and in January 2014, we were awarded one of those 4 licenses. At about the same time, we were doing some work in Massachusetts, and when the dust settled there, we won 3 of the original 20 vertically integrated licenses in Mass. was just Diane and I back then working out of the house. Diane Czarkowski is my wife and business partner. We've been business partners since we've been engaged. Fast forward to 2019, we're a full-time firm of 25 people with offices in downtown Boulder, Colorado. It's funny, over the last few years, one of the states that we worked in was Illinois back in 2014, when they had their first round of licensing, where we were successful in helping a group win a dispensary license and a different group in one of the cultivation licenses. So we're excited that 5 years later, Illinois is coming around again.
Nice. So how are you seeing the change from putting together your team and your applications with this new social equity aspect for those 20% of the points that Illinois has built in?
Sure. So as the leader of a 25-person firm, I have people on my team that are a lot more tuned into the nuances of the regs than me. But clearly, we run every application project like it's a political campaign. We've lost and we've won licenses by a fraction of a point in the past.
Wow.
So whatever points are available, it will be awarded for the social equity component. We have to maximize that. So that's a critical piece to every team that we're going to be working with. It has to be, because those are the groups that are going to win.
Hey, Jay, your team, the firm, I imagine you guys offer a package, right? As advisors, you're legal, structural, because I love the fact that you are a construction guy. Like, I don't know if you know, but CannaCon, the guy behind CannaCon, is also construction. And it just seems, I don't know if you're paying attention earlier when I was rambling on about how people who were into plant early and made money and then were able to, it just seems like a natural progression for you to now be involved into the bigger picture of things.
It was funny. I think I missed that part of the conversation earlier because I was actually hustling back here from the building department in Boulder, Colorado.
Nice. So you're still involved in permitting and all that crap too, hands-on?
To some degree. I mean, I really enjoy construction, and it's funny. We're at the point now where my wife and my Diane just took a sabbatical, and I'm looking to take a sabbatical, but I'm not going to rest. I want to do a construction project during my sabbatical in cannabis. So I love construction, love the trades.
Yeah.
How long have you been in construction?
Since after the dot-com crash, so probably 2002-ish, we got involved with developing real estate. And, in 2009, 2010, really all we've done since then is just cannabis projects.
Well, that has to be a wealth of knowledge, because the outlay that you're supposed to do, you're supposed to provide the floor plan. And if you've done lots of floor plans, that probably becomes very, very easy for you.
It does. And it's funny when I do a lot of, occasional speaking engagements, and I always start by telling people, when I got into this industry back in 2009, I could assure you that nobody knew less than I did about the cannabis industry. So we opened the dispensary, we leased our first warehouse, and I told my guys, I said, all right, I leased the building, here's the keys. I want to see plants in there by Friday. Sure, they have plants in there by Friday. I thought, you hung up the lights, you put the plants down, you give them water, and voila, right? You're in money up to your elbows. The unfortunate ending of that story was we took our first harvest to the Boulder County landfill. So not only did I not get paid for my first crop, I had to pay someone to take it off my hands.
So you had a
since then, certainly.
So is that one of the reasons why you really need to impress upon some people the capital requirements that are involved in this industry?
Certainly. It's a much lower barrier to entry to open a dispensary, right? Some tenant finish and some other, compliance systems. But really do a cultivation facility right, these days, and to be competitive, to do it right, contaminant free, clean product. Same with processing and manufacturing. It certainly does take a lot more money than it did when we got started.
Well, being in the game too, for somebody who's been in a dispensary, and then now I imagine you've been in projects as far as grows and shops. You've seen pretty much a 360 of the cannabis industry, so you can have that full on. This is what you need to run a business if you want to play in Illinois or whatever.
Certainly. And let's face it, there's I don't know what the current number is of dispensaries that are open in Illinois right now. But let's face it, that's the competition, right? These 75 new licenses are going to be competing against X number of established businesses. So yeah, these new groups are going to need to have their stuff together quick and execute, effectively.
Yeah. Do you think that Canna Advisors on your team that you're putting together for your application would be advantageous in getting your doors open in a timely fashion because of all the experience that you have in opening other dispensaries across the country?
For sure. But, just, to clarify, so we won't be putting in any of our own applications. We always work with local partners.
Right.
So the local partnership piece is huge. And it's funny, we've learned over time, if we really do our job properly on the front end, right? If we've, not only, a winning application, local support, proper plans, but if we help our client groups properly build and round out their teams with all the right players, it's kind of interesting sometimes how little we're needed if we've done our job effectively on the front end.
Are you guys more of then also? So I'm not a business guy. I'm just a stupid hippie that just met this lawyer guy. And so, for your when you get involved, say a business in Illinois is coming up, are you also doing like equity where someone says, "All right, you can own 50% of my business if you help me get started"? Because obviously the minority application, the social equity application is going to be a huge player in Illinois.
So we do take equity, and I'll lay that out because it's a small piece, and I'll explain that. Our model from 2012 is literally the same model that we have today. I have a lot of high-end mouths to feed here at Canna Advisors, so we need to charge fees on the front end, but we always have a success fee, and my favorite success fee is equity, and it's 50%. It's typically anywhere from 2% to 5%. If it's 2% to 5%, I don't have a target on my back, right? No one's asking, why does Jay Czarkowski own 50% of this business? So we do take a little bit of equity as a success fee, but as I like to say, nothing obnoxious.
On that, I wanted to know then, if you have that success fee, do you have to do one of those anonymous principal statements for Canna Advisors then, because they're contemplating that 2%?
Yeah, it really depends state to state. In fact, there's been some states, just because of the way the laws were written, we could not take any equity. I'm not sure how things are going to shake out in this round in Illinois. We've done other things too. We've taken cash success fees. We've taken percent of gross. And sometimes the success fee just for whatever reason doesn't work out. And there's been situations where we've won licenses and we haven't had a success fee. So it all depends on the state program and what the laws are.
Well, it's not 100% guaranteed no matter what this business, the culture of the cannabis, it gone from a handshake and secrets to, people spinning fucking flyers on the corner, telling you the stories down the street. And as a consumer, I've seen the range of consumer varieties, like sick and healthy, old and young, all the, colors in between, America. So, you guys offer a lot as far as coming from that perspective of the culture. That's going to be someone who's been in the business, especially in Colorado. I imagine, no one knows Jay Czarkowski yet, but you'll eventually be a name because you're one of the first people that had a business. One of the first people that took a chance.
Well, thank you. As I like to say, I've enjoyed my front row seat to the circus.
Nice.
Oh my gosh, how long? I mean, like. So 10 years you've been doing this. And once you described it as a grind, and then after doing it for several months, I'm like, yeah, these people just don't stop calling. And then there's just questions after questions. And then there's a trade show and then they get this thing up. I mean, there's the schedule on this industry is pretty intense. And it looks like right now it's kind of focused on Illinois for the first wave of the dispensaries and then the craft grow and the infusers. What other emerging markets do you see on the horizon coming for 2020 in the United States?
Yeah, 2020 is going to be exciting, guys, and I think 2021 and 2022 will be even more exciting. But right now the fourth quarter for us is certainly Illinois dispensary. The first quarter of 2020 is also looking like Illinois cultivation and processing. We should also see in the first quarter. I'll call it New Jersey round 4. New Jersey has had 3 licensing rounds at this point, but they've been incredibly limited. we're hearing, and I'm on the board of the Industry Association in New Jersey, we're hearing we should finally see a broad expansion of licenses sometime next year. We're here in the first quarter. Florida continues to rear its ugly head. And I make that comment because for years, Massachusetts held the title to the most dysfunctional cannabis program in the country. Florida took that title away from Massachusetts a couple of years ago. Incredibly limited there. Florida has what I like to refer to as the family cartels. You have a small number of businesses, and the state has allowed some of them to open an unlimited number of dispensaries. Florida should open up at some point, since the multiple courts have now ruled the current program unconstitutional. Georgia is going to have an application process at some point in 2020. Utah will have an application process for.
Yeah. Maybe like he drops the jaw.
Yeah.
What Utah is going to have around, you think, in 2021?
Utah already issued cultivation licenses this year, and they're going to issue a dozen dispensary licenses next year.
Go
nice.
Hey, so it's shocking, right? But it's happening finally.
Yeah.
I think as you're rambling off the states, and I mean, honestly, it's a continuing list of always new cannabis players, new. I mean, fuck. When Mississippi gets involved, that's when I'll start getting excited, But just because you're like, yeah, but
it's going to be on the ballot in Mississippi in 2020.
Yeah, I mean that just is progress. That's and so my whole point being is, in your position with like the NCIA, being on these boards, I think you're in a great position as when it comes to legalization, because I mean you're on the forefront of this billion-dollar industry, and so being someone that can help you get that license and be a go-to, I mean you automatically offer a network that as a business person, if I'm about to drop $500,000 or something, that's what I want. I need some insurance. I need some sort of experience.
Right.
I just think it's great.
Yeah. No guarantees certainly, but we take our responsibility seriously to win.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's difficult. And I think that the Illinois competitive nature is going to be quite competitive. But I think that because of the injection of the social equity, I've had some clients get cold feet and just decide to not pursue it because they didn't want, or they didn't have any social equity talent on their team. And they were like, give up 51% of control. I don't want to do that.
Yeah. Well, you know what, if they're not comfortable with that and they don't have that piece covered, then it's certainly not for them, because they probably won't win a license if they don't have that part covered.
Yep.
What's the projected Illinois market?
It's 3 times the population of Colorado, so it's about 13 million people, plus 100 million people go to Chicago on an annualized basis.
Yeah, call it 2.5, 3x. So yeah, I mean it's it's a $3-4 billion adult use market.
I mean, so right. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say that just reflects current trends. I mean, we're still going against a long-held prejudice, even in legalization states of Washington and Colorado. You guys probably still experience prejudice toward cannabis smokers, or at least I would imagine so. I mean, Miggy rails on that all the time on our show about how they're still fighting against the stigma, and we're still fighting against the stigma in Illinois as well. So they kind of get capped at that 20% of the population uses cannabis. And I think as we're increasing social use and different types of infused beverages and other types of products that they can have, and it becomes more publicly acceptable, that 20% will grow and maybe fewer people will drink. I don't know.
Well, 20% seems like a small number to me, just for even a recreational market, because you can't have a fucking billion-dollar industry with like 20% people population. It's not a thing. I don't think. Not a sustaining one.
Well, I think what's going to really go toward changing perception and increasing people's interest in trying cannabis and using cannabis is the development of products, right? Development of brands, brands that resonate with somebody. There might be a soccer mom who just is against cannabis, but one day she sees a brand that resonates with her, right? And she decides to try it. So, the industry continues to mature, and as it matures, right, people may find their place in it or not.
I love how you use the mature perspective, because it's like dabbing. When dabbing starts, well, at least for me as a consumer, it was just the kids, right? And I was like, they're having a party, whatever. That's fine. That it looks whatever. And then I done it. I liked it, but I like the more grown up version of a vape pen. Where you walk around and just consume a little bit of wax throughout your day. Nothing overpowering. That's what you're saying. It grows up. There's a perception.
Yeah, I still enjoy smoking flower. Pens are nice when I travel. There's been a couple. There's one situation. There's an underground social use lounge in New York City that I visited a month or so ago, and I kind of walk in looking like this, and they're like, who's this guy? So the first thing I did was hit their dab bar, and didn't knock back just one, but in quick succession, 3 big dabs, and all right, this guy.
Yeah.
Not a cup.
No, I would have hit those 3 big dabs and then just fallen right over.
But I brought an attorney friend of mine, and that's pretty much what happened to him.
Like I'll be hanging out with growers and stuff, and they'll just smoke me under the table, and I'll be like, "Look, guys, I enjoy this stuff, but you are professionals." Yeah.
The problem too, the perception. So like what I always preach, though, this is not freaking new. Hash, thousands of years old. It's just a concentrate. It's just another form.
Tincture of cannabis indica was just routinely prescribed in this country by for the pharmacists until 1942 when it was removed. And that's the only reason they called it marijuana, was because it was in the pharmacopoeia. So if they called it prohibiting cannabis, well, that was in that book that I wrote. Remember, Dr. Woodward came down in 1937. There's like, that's not what we call it. And they didn't care.
Yeah, we're in a funny place in history, right? Like if you look at this 5,000 or 7,000 year chunk of time where it's been, clearly documented that people have used cannabis, it's just in, our lifetimes, right? The majority of, the people that are still alive on this earth, it's been in our lifetimes that cannabis has been illegal. So, right, it's a historic glitch. I'm sure 300 years from now, people will be looking back like, oh man, those poor folks, there's 3 generations going to use cannabis.
Right.
Well, my son, it's also a continuing education and truth thing. I always think that part of our problem is that we have a drug ignorance, where we, coffee's a drug, fucking everything's, that you want to have without need for it is a fucking drug. But even cannabis, though, is a good thing. It's a healthy thing. But my son asked me the difference. He's like, "What's the difference between a tincture and the flower?" And I was like, "Think of it like this: eat an orange and orange juice." And that's what people really still need to understand, I think.
Well, for sure. There's it's funny. I was flying home from, you mentioned ArcView earlier. I was flying home from the most recent ArcView group meeting in New York City just a couple of days ago, and I was sitting next to a guy who's in education. He has some kind of a media company. He does, I guess, elementary through high school, like educational programs. And clearly, like, this guy did not smoke weed, right? And I'll always bring up the conversation. I mean, Christ, I don't want to tell too many stories, but I was sitting on a plane one time next to a retired cop from Florida who was adamantly against cannabis because he thought the kids would get at it. I just happened to have a single-use, 10 milligram chocolate in my briefcase, and I handed it to him. Like, go ahead and see if you can open that. It was child-proof. He couldn't get into it. So I opened it, broke it in half, asked him if he wanted half. He said no, of course. So I ate the whole thing, and we continued on with our flight. But, this gentleman I was sitting next to last week commented on how, well, doesn't it make you nervous that the federal government could just shut you down like that? And I kind of laughed, and I think the reality that most people don't know is that the federal government isn't shutting this down. I mean, just when Sessions refused to renew that one memorandum earlier this year, his fellow Republican, one of my senators, Cory Gardner, pulled up every single Justice Department nomination for until they hit 110 backlog. Trump finally intervened and said, "Don't worry, we're not going to do anything." So the federal government shutting down the industry, not happening on this planet.
Yeah, and then the Congress actually just overwhelmingly passed the Safe Banking Act. Now it goes to the Senate, and Trump did. That was one of the more popular YouTubes. I was able to kind of make fun of him a little bit about how far you can go with executive orders after he said, we're allowing the states to do this. They're just very clear clearly telecasting to the public that that's what they're going to allow them to do. And then the number of banks continues to reflect that. The number of banks increased again last quarter, and I bet it'll increase again this next quarter. And then I bet these banks are correlating to all these emerging markets that you're discussing that are coming up to bat in 2020, 2021. So if you get the Safe Banking Act that passes, the industry could really mature. And you were mentioning something about brands. And so I would like to touch on that, and also supply chains, because everything is within its own territory. All states are encapsulated in and of themselves. How does brand, which needs to be, it could be international in the sense that that McDonald's hamburger should be identical to that McDonald's hamburger, no matter what country you're in. How are you seeing companies and cannabis operators addressing this issue of brands so that when I go to California or Colorado or Washington, my brand of cannabis, let's use GTI because they're a multi-state operator, my GTI Brownie Scout is going to taste exactly the same?
So it is incredibly difficult, right, to take a brand from the original state to new states. Mm-hmm. And I'm not familiar with GTI's products, but any formulation, right, the actual formulation, that should be able to be replicated, right? But yeah, if someone wants to expand, they have to get a whole new license in a whole new state, build a whole new facility. And the hard part is they have to abide by a completely different set of rules, right? The packaging requirements may or may not be different. Labeling may or may not be different. I got a guy down in Denver, he has a laser etching machine because he needs to, laser etch his chocolate covered, 10 milligram coffee beans with THC. He doesn't have to do that in other states. So it's difficult. One thing that I think is going to be exciting to look forward to one day is, and this will happen when we have some movement, some legalization at the federal level, when we start to see interstate commerce. Now, it's slow because there's going to be states that are going to want to protect their local industry, and they're not going to want it coming from other states, but it'll happen slowly, right? But that's going to be the big game changer. That's when I think we'll see more brand consistency across geographic areas.
Well, we already have multi-brand brands like Chiba Chews, Willie's Reserve. Again, it's about who you do business with, the quality. But as you were saying, though, you can't have, it's all about genetics. I can't say that the same Blue Dream in Oregon is the same Blue Dream in Washington or the same Blue Dream in Colorado, just because, that means I brought the seeds from each place. And now,
it's a good jump, though.
Sure. Yeah. You mentioned Chiba Chews, man. Old school. Used to love those old Chiba Chews.
They're still around.
Chiba Chews.
I've seen them.
Wait a second. Educate a poor young country lawyer for a moment about Chiba Chews.
Well, I haven't had one since they had like 2X. They had the 10X. It's like there was no milligrams, right?
Oh, wow.
Well, the brand, the name itself, like in Washington State, there were Chiba Chews when I was. So again, medical. You have a lot of people existing in the medical area, and then that's where they create the brand, create their base. So Chiba Chews, I mean, I don't know origins. I don't know who owns what. I just know the brand existed in Washington, also existed in California, and now mysteriously exists in Nevada. So, it's a brand.
Started right here in Colorado back in 2010.
Is that Colorado? Oh, see, I don't know. I don't ask who. I just say, hey, that's what I want. Again, the old cannabis culture. We don't ask like, hey, where did you get it?
A Chiba Chew to make sure that they get an infuser license in 2020. So if you're watching Chiba Chew, call me.
Yeah, no, and Willie's Reserve. That's another one.
Sure, Willie's.
Some type of, like you said, X, double X. So is this something that's going around where they're not actually marketing, or is it got like a little logo that's the same in all states?
Yeah,
I'm not sure. Yeah, I haven't followed Chiba Chew in years.
But that's because it's just marketing, good marketing. Especially when the industry was young, as far as medical in California, medical in Washington, and medical in Oregon. It was a pay to play, but a poor man pay to play, where you just had to say, I got a bad back, or because it is medicine. But at the same token, 18-year-olds, there was a lot of 18-year-olds with bad backs. So.
I got a bad foot.
Yeah. It should be just, I had a sad day. That's why you should be allowed to have fucking marijuana, goddammit. But hey, whatever. But yeah, no, Chiba Chews, Willie's Reserve is a big one. And there's a couple others that are, and others multi-states, as well as we have in Washington State Have a Heart, which there's now a Have a Heart in on the Bay Area in California. So the multi-brands are out there, you know. Oh shit, I think we lost Tom.
Oh boy.
Oh, no.
Did I get taken out?
There you are.
I'll be right back, guys.
Oh no.
Oh, wait, am I back?
Yeah, you're back now.
Can you now hear me or no?
No, I can hear you.
You can hear me? All right. I can't hear you. But
You need a Samsung.
that's what happens. Say something now.
You need a Google. You need a Droid. You need. Oh, he can't hear us. Oh shit.
I need to use my other cell phone when I do this, so clients can't call.
Use the drug phone, Tom. Use the drug phone.
I'm gonna come back. I'll be right back.
So you can't hear us. Anyways, have you worked with any multinational brands, Jay?
You know, it's funny. We're starting to. We've soundly beaten a lot of the larger MSOs for licenses. I like to say that we're responsible for diversifying the gene pool of the industry. You know, we'll typically work with just regular folks, right, that want to get involved and help them get their first license. But the larger organizations have taken notice on, you know, their defeats at the hand of our wins, and some of them are starting to come around now, and they're asking us if we could help them get their licenses, and I'm not sure how we feel about that.
So, like, if I were to approach Canna Advisors, just a small time yoke, nobody, I got shit credit. Let's just start that, because I've been involved in cannabis, and so I just a pretend scenario, you know, so couldn't build credit, right? But and I come to you and say, hey, I've been involved in weed. I got a brand. Can you help me? Do you help with like investment, because you're part of all these investment groups and all the other stuff as well? For
sure. I've been a member of the ArcView group since 2013, back when there was just a small number of us sitting around a U-shaped table. I don't even think anybody invested any money back then.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
I hear you now.
What's that?
What's the RFE groups?
ArcView. The
ArcView?
The ArcView group?
ArcView. I'm
ArcView.
sorry, I was hearing an acronym. Arc and View together.
Yes. So yeah, Diane and I are active investors, and we're, you know, part of a larger network of more investors.
Right. So you can help somebody from the ground up if they have a good enough package, I guess, is what I guess the whole point, right? Like, I was at an investor group meeting here in Seattle. There were a lot of millionaires, and you know, I would like to pay my bills doing this one day, right? I would, but the shit I do is mostly media. It's social media and all that crap. So likes and all that shit. Eventually, it can pay bills, but it doesn't do it now. But in the sense of the cannabis space, you know, if I had a business idea brought to you, you know, saying, hey, here's the package, and here's where I think it would be a prospective outreach. You know, would that be something like then I would catch your ear, right? So anyways, at this multi-million-dollar investment group, I asked them, what makes you want to invest? And their biggest thing was, you got to have an exit strategy, right? Like, I don't have an exit strategy because I want to do this forever. I'm always going to help people, at least with weed shit. If it's weed related or writing and all that stuff, I'm always doing this until
it's not a business then.
Yeah. I don't have no exit strategy. So
that's important. Like, if whenever I give somebody money, the first thing I want to know is, like, how am I getting my money back? Right. I want to get my money back eventually. I mean, you seem like a good guy and I like you, but I'm going to want to get my money back one day.
Right. And I think that's one of the more challenging aspects when I explain to prospective clients what they're really looking at when they're getting into this new industry, and they don't have an existing operation in another state. And so they're it's their first rodeo. You know, they got to buy all the boots and equipment and put it all together so you can get their doors open once. So how do you have that conversation with people about how are they going to get their money back, and what do they have to be comfortable losing? Because it's a competitive application. You don't win every time, and there is that initial upfront cost to get to there.
Sure. So, you know, people that want to raise what we'll call it pursuit capital, right? So people that want to raise money on the front end to fund their license pursuit, of course, that is incredibly risky, right? Because you don't get a license, that money's gone. So it's incredibly difficult, and it's somewhat rare for people to successfully raise outside investor capital just for their license pursuit. Now, it's more appropriate, for people to come together and pool money, friends and family, more of an insider round that when people come up with that risk capital. But, for a group, even if they're extremely well qualified to go to, an outside source and ask for money, most of these investment sources are going to be, very leery of investing in a license pursuit just because it's so risky. Now, once that license is awarded, right, completely different story. There's going to be a number of folks that are interested in investing once somebody has that license.
Right. So you would not advocate structuring the pursue capital. You would advocate, and this makes sense, because when I've heard pitches and I'm like, we're going to go raise this and this, I'm like, you're not showing that you're adequately capitalized, and I don't know if you're going to be able to do that. But because what I have to explain to them is like, look, it's going to cost you quite a bit of money to put it together. You will definitely have a high quality application. I just don't know if that high quality application will get you a cannabis license.
Well, the friends and family, I know that's a big investment that they look at first. Like, if your friends and family aren't willing to invest in you, why should I?
Exactly.
Right.
And, we there's been situations in the past where we have structured raises where some of the capital came in for the pursuit. As an example, we were doing a project in Pennsylvania where I think we were, looking to line up $15 million post-license. So we were going out and, helping this particular group line up that money. But the caveat was, hey, we'll save you a spot post-license, but you have to put up a very small percentage of that now for the pursuit. So this group surprisingly was able to raise most of their pursuit capital. We've done that now 2 or 3 times, but it really has to be a solid group, right? That impresses people where they're willing to give up their hard-earned cash for this risky.
So that pursuit capital, then they're raising in small increments with bigger promises, like they're buying an option to get at that, and then they pay for their application that way, so that they've really spread their risk. So they aren't going to be out like one guy who has to pay the full license fee himself, because he's going to self-fund. He's not going to be even risking that. They've gotten these other people on the line and made promises so that they'd get the equity in the back end and fund the build outs.
Yes.
Cool. But it sounds like it's a cool thing if it happens, but it's something that isn't that normal, right?
It's not. It really has to be a solid group. And just from my perspective, when Diane and I are making an investment, it's the person. It's the people that we invest in.
Cool.
Well, Tom's always said it too. Before, like, I imagine to get into this recreational space, the recreational to be part of the $1 billion industry, you got to start off with a couple $100,000 just to be an established business. The licensing, the contracting, the Canna Advisors. I mean, you got to have some equity. You got to start off with something, that kind of idea before you decide, hey, here's my not planned. You got to have a plan. That's the whole point where, a lot of these kids coming up and they just think, I can grow a plant and I'll be a part of the industry, but you're not. You'll start off as a bud tender, and then you'll work your way up within one company, but you're not going to be a mogul. You're not going to own a dispensary, not unless you start off with that investment, right?
Yeah, I mean, it certainly it's state dependent, right? For better or for worse, yeah, these next 75 licenses in Illinois, it's going to be competitive. Now, if you compare that to a state like Oklahoma, right? They, passed their program, by vote in June of last year, June of 2018. I know it's kind of a strange month to vote, but what's happened, there's really no limit on licenses. So in a situation like that, I mean, yeah, it's the next generation of cannabis mogul ship is it's open, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oklahoma. I was there for a week before they passed the medical bill. The CB shops were everywhere, so they already had an infrastructure for cannabis ready, a consumer. When I was there for Seattle Hemp Fest, Oklahoma is what Washington was. It's still the Wild West. It's a good opportunity to be a millionaire, if you're there.
Sure.
Well, I just thought that was going to be something that wasn't the case, in the sense that because the barriers to entry are so low in Oklahoma, anybody who wants to sell cannabis basically can. And because of that, it's more of an unfettered capitalism. And then they also said that there's no restriction on licenses. So somebody in theory could corner the number of licenses in Oklahoma.
Dude, the business, the infrastructure there, they already have a community, a culture there. And so just like in Washington, where people who were like dab stars, you have this counterculture that starts here. And a lot of these guys are millionaires now. A lot of these guys are invested into the recreational shops here. But they were part of the medical scene because now you're not paying taxes. You're involved in a non-governed business. You know, your whole purpose is to have the best shop or the best grow. You know, you'll still use people like Canna Advisors because I like have construction help.
Great.
I lost you guys here for a minute.
Oh, shit.
All right. Am I back or am I not back?
I think we're all back.
Right on.
Okay. I am never doing another show in this Chicago apartment again. And I would have a call on this with Comcast, but the problem with that is calling Comcast is always a bad idea.
Oh, it's awful. It dehumanizes you.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Jay. Before we go, we did have a question from Wobble and Reefer AL Joint. Can you guys talk about the MedMen merger? Any thoughts on that?
The MedMen merger? Who are they merging with now?
They were merging with PharmaCann and it fell through.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't put a whole lot of stock into what a lot of these big companies are up to. A lot of these big companies grew by acquisition. They're acquiring other companies that grew by acquisition. It's like oh my God. A lot of these large companies are so disorganized. It's a complete shit show.
And isn't it just capital suck that they're just always raising capital? I mean, so they pay themselves the salaries and all that. None of them are really posting profits.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of them are, but listen, there's some good companies too. I mean, right in your backyard is Cresco Labs. I'm a big supporter of Cresco. I love those guys. They got a great management team. I think those guys will be one of the survivors. Forefront Ventures, I think Chicago and Massachusetts. There's some good companies out there, but there's bullshit out there too.
Well, your company is 100%. It's just you and your wife, so it's American business. It's American. What do you think about like the Israel money coming in, the Canadian money? What happened in Massachusetts where they acquired a goddamn license for like $1 billion or a chain?
Yeah, I don't know how much stock I put in that. I mean, I hear these things, and it's like you don't know what the real story is sometimes. Yeah, $1 billion for a few shops in Massachusetts. I heard about that. I forget the name, but I don't know. The Israelis, I like them. They're cool because they're doing real research in Israel, right? It's happened. The Canadians, all right. I don't do business in Canada. I don't hold any ownership in Canadian companies. It's kind of funny. The Canadians are making us look bad right now, right? Because they're exporting cannabis all over the world. That should be the United States. That should be us. All I could say is when the United States finally gets its act together and has some form of federal legalization, the Canadians better look out because we're gonna crush them.
Nice.
All right. Great. Well, once again, thank you for joining us. Where can we follow or find Canna Advisors?
Our website is thinkcanna.com. A lot of great information there.
Great. And Tom, where can we find you?
Well, you can find me on YouTube at Cannabis Legalization News, or you can Google Cannabis Lawyer and find me at CannabisIndustryLawyer.com.
Great. And Miggy?
We'll probably here next week because there's no more weed news, unfortunately.
All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you like and subscribe to keep up with all your cannabis legalization news. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Jay.
Okay.
Are we out?